What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Today we are building Noctis on a cEDH level. This guy is absolutely insane. And for everybody waiting on those casual lists, they're on the way, but I'm going to wait till the entire set is released before I knock some of those out. So enjoy this week of cEDH brewing so we can see what these commanders can do at the absolute top level. Noctis excites me because this guy reminds me of one of my favorite commanders, Tyam. It's just a Rube Goldberg machine that kind of has a lot of ways to get there. It's very commander centric, and at the end of the day, you feel like you're playing a deck that's a little bit smarter than you. Again, this deck is going to benefit the player that puts the time into learning the commander, because there's just a lot of ways you can just kind of piece wins together by putting some cards together that you've never had to put together before. Every single game is going to feel a little bit different, so if you're a puzzle solver, this is going to be the perfect commander for you. He's also really solid with Gifts Ungiven and Intuition, so sometimes you don't have to think. You just get to cast these cards and win the game because you're able to cast your Intuition and Gifts Ungiven lines from the graveyard, which is pretty solid. So if that sounds like something you guys want to get into, let's get into it right after you click on that whatnot link in the description down below to collect your free $15. Additionally, you guys can get 10% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you use code DT for D. And last but not least, you guys can get 10% off this awesome Dragon deck box until the end of the month. Now let's get into this Noctis deck tech. Let's kick it off by rating what Noctis does. He's a 4 CMC commander in Esper colors. He has lifelink, and he says you may cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to paying their other cost. If you cast a spell this way, that artifact enters the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So the first obstacle we have to get over is getting rid of that finality counter, because I kind of want to cast cards like Lion's Eye Diamond infinitely from my graveyard. We're going to lean on 3 different cards to get this done. We have Hex Parasite, Displacer Kitten, and Solemnity. Hex Parasite is a 1 CMC artifact, so that's pretty solid. We can throw it into the graveyard and cast it with our commander. It has an ability for X and a Phyrexian mana. We can remove up to X counters from a target permanent. So we can just pay 1 mana or 2 mana with LED and go ahead and remove the finality counter, sacrifice it, and recast it. That way, we're always getting rid of the finality counter. We do still lose 3 life, but again, one of the hurdles we have gotten over. Displacer Kitten is a 4 CMC cat beast that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. What we're going to do here is we're going to cast a Lotus Petal, and then we're going to cast an LED, and then that will blink our Lotus Petal. Then whenever we sack the Lotus Petal and recast it from the graveyard using Noctis's ability, we can blink the LED, right? So as long as we have 2 mana positive rocks here, we can generate infinite mana as long as we have a way to gain life. Last but not least, we have Solemnity. For 3 CMC, 2 generic and 1 white, we get an enchantment that says players can't get counters. Counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, and enchantments or lands. So this one's the easiest here. It's just cast whatever you want from the graveyard whenever you want, and it doesn't get a counter put on it. You just have to pay the 3 life. An honorable mention here, we have Vexing Bauble. Now this one doesn't get rid of the counter, but it's kind of just like the counter was never put on it. So if we cast something for 0 CMC from our graveyard, it gets countered, because Vexing Bauble says whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So now if we have something that benefits off of casting non-creature spells, we can infinitely cast 0 CMC cards from our graveyard, and that's going to allow us to win the game. With cards like Aetherflux Reservoir and Black Mage's Rod. Aetherflux Reservoir, super simple. For CMC, you get an artifact that says whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. And then you can pay 50 life, and Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. So you can gain infinite life here and dome the entire table, winning the game. Black Mage's Rod does something perfect because our commander has lifelink. For 1 generic and 1 black, you get an artifact equipment with job select. That means it instantly equips to a colorless hero creature token. And then it says, equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent and is a wizard in addition to its other types. It also has an equip cost of 3. So the goal here is to equip this to our commander with lifelink, and now whenever we cast something from our graveyard, that's a non-creature spell, right? We're going to dome our commanders for 1 each, gaining 3 life. So now the 3 life we pay is completely negated by the Black Mage's Rod, and additionally, it machine guns down the entire table. Now, Now, I think you can see why I'm calling this the Rube Goldberg machine that it is. This is exactly why I called it Espertium, because there's a lot of different scenarios you can see where we get any combination of Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, Hex Parasite on the battlefield, and then we find our Aetherflux Reservoir, or we can go into our Kitten lines, and then we have Black Mage's Rod, along with a Lion Eye Diamond and a Lotus Petal. The deck gets opened up even wider if we have something like Grinding Station on the battlefield. For 2 CMC, you get an artifact that says, sacrifice an artifact, target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, and then whenever an artifact comes into play, you may untap Grinding Station. So now you can literally use any mana positive rock to go off and win the game whenever you have the Black Mage's Rod or Aetherflux Reservoir. I'm also on Blind Obedience because Extort kind of does the same thing as Black Mage's Rod, right? It says whenever you cast a spell, you may pay either white or black. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain that much life. So again, whenever we're casting something like LED from the graveyard and it enters with no counters, we sacrifice it and we have floating mana. Now, the next time we do that, we can pay the extort cost and we're able to drain our opponents, offset the 3 life we're paying, and additionally, artifacts and creatures your opponent control enter the battlefield tapped. So Blind Obedience seemed perfect here. Now we have 3 different cards that can offset the life loss. Alright, just to reiterate, to put everything up on the screen at once, let's talk about our winning combos. We can use Aetherflux Reservoir, Displacer Kitten, and Lion's Eye Diamond or Lotus Petal to go ahead and win with our commander out on the battlefield. Again, we have to blink each 2. Additionally, we can go ahead and swap out Aetherflux Reservoir for either Black Mage's Rod or Blind Obedience, depending on which one we need. We also have the option to switch out Displacer Kitten with either Solemnity or Hex Parasite, depending on which one we have. Notably, Hex Parasite is an artifact, so that's the easiest intuition line. We can just put Hex Parasite in the graveyard along with Lion Eye Diamond and then Aetherflux Reservoir or the Black Mage's Rod. With those 3, we're able to win the game. We can cast Hex Parasite from our graveyard, Lion Eye Diamond from the graveyard, and Aetherflux Reservoir from the graveyard, and as long as we're paying to get rid of the Lion Eye Diamond's finality counter, we just win the game from there and dome everybody with Aetherflux Reservoir. Not to mention, the combo has the potential to get even more flexible whenever we add Grinding Station into the mix, because we're able to use any mana rock that's mana positive. We're not limited to mana rocks that sacrifice themselves. The other win line is a lot more simpler to explain. We have Vexing Bauble, any 0 CMC spell, and then Black Mage's Rod or Aetherflux Reservoir. These are both going to trigger whenever we cast, but that spell is instantly going to get countered because we didn't spend any mana to cast it, and then we can dome our opponents with either Aetherflux or Black Mage's Rod. What's cool about this is Vexing Bauble kind of protects your win too. You don't have to worry about any free interaction, so if you look at the board, people are tapped out, you can kind of just go for this one, and Vexing Bauble not only protects your win attempt, but it is part of the combo. Kind of weird. It also seemed super free, so I'm also including Ethereum Sculptor, Mystic Forge, and Sensei's Divining Top. This is one that allows you to draw your entire deck, and then we're going to win with, again, either Aetherflux's Reservoir or Black Mage's Rod. Ethereum Sculptor reduces the cost of all of your artifact spells by 1. Mystic Forge allows you to play artifact spells from the top of your library, and then Sensei's Divining Top is a 1 CMC artifact that allows you to pay 1 and look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order, or it allows you to draw a card and then put Sensei's Divining Top back on top of its owner's library. So again, you're able to cast the top an infinite amount of times and draw your entire deck. We find Aetherflux and win the game off of that. Pretty simple here. This combo can win independently of your commander, but if your commander's on the battlefield, it can also be one of our intuition lines. What I like about this line as opposed to the other ones is we don't have to keep casting things from our graveyard using our commander. At most, we're only going to have to spend 6 life, and then we're able to draw our entire library, and our commander kind of has done his thing. We're also on Demonic Consultation and Thassa's Oracle. I mean, we're in Esper colors, why not? It's just there and it's free, so we have 2 different lines here that win independently of our commander, so I'll take it. I'm also still including Savine's Reclamation in this deck. For 2 CMC and a white, you get a sorcery that says return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If this spell was cast from your graveyard, you may copy this spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. It also has flashback for 5 CMC. This is going to give us another way to win independently of our commander with our intuition and gift ungiven lines. One last one here, since we are on Displacer Kitten, why not include 3 fairy and have another winning combo? All you're going going to need here is Displacer Kitten, Lotus Petal, and Teferi. Teferi says each opponent can cast spells only anytime they can cast a sorcery, so it kind of protects your win. We are going to be blinking him though, so that's kind of neither here nor there. Additionally, it says until your next turn you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash, but really we want the -3 here. That says return up to one target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand, and then you get to draw a card. So what's going to happen here is we're just going to keep returning Lotus Petal or any mana positive mana rock back to our hand over and over and over again, draw our deck, find our winning combos, and again, we can either win with something like an Aetherflux Reservoir, a Blind Obedience, or again, the Black Mage's Rod. Did I mention this deck is insanely layered? Let's talk about some all-stars in the deck. We have Artificer's Intuition. For 1 generic and 1 blue, you get an enchantment that says 1 blue, discard an artifact card from your hand, search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This finds you a plethora of winning lines. It can get you your Hex Parasite, your Lion's Eye Diamond, your Lotus Petal. It can even find you your Vexing Bauble if you want to win that way. The only thing it doesn't help you find is your Black Mage's Rod or your Aetherflux Reservoir, so you do kind of have to dig a little bit deep to find those cards, but at the end of the day, this card's just insane. Not only does it find 90% of your combo, it finds you all of your mana positive rocks like your Soul Rings, your Mana Vaults, so it can even ramp you a little bit, and we're in black and an Esper list, so we have time to wait and just tutor for the missing piece. Wishclaw Talisman has also been super clutch here. It's a tutor that's also an artifact, so if we mill this thing, we can cast it from our graveyard, and then we get to remove that wish counter and tutor for our missing combo piece. It's absolutely insane here. Spellskite is a 2 CMC artifact creature horror that you can pay 2 blue Phyrexian to change the target of target spell or ability to Spellskite. Remember, this is a commander-centric deck, so cards like Spellskite are amazing here. Ripples of Undeath straight up says draw 3 cards in this deck. It's a 2 CMC enchantment, 1 generic, 1 black, that says at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards, then you may pay 1 generic and 3 life to put one of those cards into your hand. 9 times out of 10, we're okay with just shipping everything to the graveyard. It's also just really efficient at finding you tutors, so sometimes you ship a piece to the graveyard, you find a tutor, and that allows you to win the game. Counterbalance is also particularly messed up here. This is a 2 CMC enchantment that's double blue that says whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, counter that spell if it has the same converted mana cost of the revealed card. This seems like a random card, right? But not really in this deck. Since Sensei's Divining Top is such a big part of this deck, 9 times out of 10, if we're able to get counterbalance, we're kind of going to try to find top. And then once we have the counterbalance and top combo, nobody is resolving a 1 CMC spell. It's incredibly annoying to deal with. If you've never had the annoyance of dealing with this, I truly envy you. It goes without saying, but Gifts Ungiven and Intuition just flat out win us the game here. Gift Ungiven is 4 CMC. You get to search your library for up to 4 cards. You get to put 2 of those into your hand and 2 of them into the graveyard and let an opponent choose. Intuition is 3 CMC, does exactly the same thing, except for it's 3 cards. And again, our opponent gets to choose which 2 go to the bin and which goes into our hand. Urza Saga has also been an all-star here. It comes onto the battlefield early, and then later on, we get to search up our 0 cost or 1 cost artifacts that we need to combo off. And last but not least, I may be cooked way too hard on this one, but we have Ugin, Eye of the Storm. It's 7 CMC, a legendary planeswalker Ugin that says whenever you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Additionally, it says whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Its +2 is gain 3 life, and then draw a card. Its +0 is add 3 generic mana, and then its -11 is search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, then shuffle until end of turn. You may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. Now, I know this looks crazy, but hear me out. The +2 is kind of insane here. Not only does this offset the life we lose, but as long as we have Displacer Kitten, whenever we cast a spell from our graveyard that's using our commander, we get a Blink Ugin, and then we get to draw a card and gain 3 life. So that just seems insane with me. And then again, we can use Kitten to get rid of our finality counters. This takes a little bit of juggling, but it allows us not to die by casting spells from our graveyard. Additionally, there is a lot of ways to generate a ton of mana in this deck. If we do have Grinding Station and we're able to double cast something like a Mana Vault to add 6 mana to our mana pool, yes, we do have to pay 1 each time, so that's only 4 mana, but I'm just saying, it's very easy to get to 7 mana in the right board states. We have Smothering Tithe, so I just wanted one big creature to sink a lot of mana into it that just says, hey, I'm probably going to win the game from here. Well, I woke up the next day and I instantly learned about a new interaction I had no idea existed. This is definitely one of those scenarios where reading the card doesn't explain the card. Noctis does something insane with Mox Diamond. If we cast Mox Diamond from the graveyard and we don't have any land to discard, it actually never even hits the battlefield. So we can actually combo off with Mox Diamond as well, as long as we have something to gain life like our Aetherflux Reservoir or our Black Mage's Rod. So another combo in the deck that's as simple as entombing a Mox Diamond and having one of our Aetherfluxes or Black Mage's Rod already on the battlefield. Kind of insane. Thank you, Chicken Salad, for pointing this out to me.